everyone, it's Max, and today I am here with my October wrap-up. Now, I'm going to be basically flying through this. I am filming this before work. I have 15 minutes. Let's get started. I have 20 books that I read this month, and it was a doozy. So the first two books I'm going to talk about are the 10th and 11th books of the October Days series. Honestly, can't remember which one's which, but I did really enjoy these. I love this series. I feel like they are such solid reads. I'm so excited to see what happens. I'm almost caught up, which kind of breaks my heart, but I'm also just like so happy I've been reading this series. I gave both of them in between a 4 and a 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was Pearl by Josh Malerman. This is about a pig that kind of controls the minds of people and makes them kill people. It was okay. It was very, very bland. Like, there wasn't much of a story. It wasn't scary. Nothing really happened. And I've just found with a lot of Josh Malerman's works, I really enjoy the idea. I do not like his execution. The only time this has not been the case is The House at the Bottom of the Lake, which I loved. But each of the other books I've read by him have really fallen flat, and I gave it a 2.25 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones, and I ended up DNFing this. This is about a group of people who kill a bunch of elk for some reason, and now one of the main character and one of the guys who did it is now haunted by this elk. I don't like Stephen Graham Jones's writing. I read Mannequin by him and hated it. Hated it. I had hoped that like a full-length novel or the idea would appeal to me more, but I just don't like his writing. I don't like the execution. I ended up DNFing it about halfway through, and I'm giving it like a 1.5 out of 5 stars, honestly. I hated it. The next book that I read was Improbable Fortunes by Jeffrey Price, and this is a book where we are following this guy who at the beginning of the story you find out that the husband of his lover is killed and people think it's him. Then you go way back and you get like his entire life story. It was so boring. Oh my gosh, it was just so drab and annoying and just like, I just couldn't care less. I was like, oh my gosh, get to the murder. And yes, like a bunch of people throughout his life were like murdered, but I kind of wish that like the bulk of the story was trying to figure out who did it, so that like you found out like all these people in his past have mysteriously died. You think maybe it was him. And then when the reveal happened, it was like not foreshadowed at all. It came out of left field. It was just not good, and I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was Kingdom of the Cursed by Kerri Maniscalco, and honestly didn't love this one either. The plot was incomprehensible, gonna be honest. It is not connected to the first book basically in any way besides the main characters, and like there was like a secret that like made no sense as to why it was a secret, so the reveal kind of came totally out of left field. It didn't make sense. The smut was good. There were some steamy scenes, and I do really like Wrath. Kerri Maniscalco really gave us Thomas and Wrath, which are like the two polar opposites of like romantic interests, and together they do it all for me, honestly. But it's still, the plot made absolutely no sense. I was reading it, just lost the whole time. I'm like, I read the first book. Did I read the first book? Because nothing that happens in this book is connected to what happened in the first book. It was like, it felt like Kerri Maniscalco did not want to write this, and then like wasn't planning on having a sequel, or maybe she just wanted to be a duology, but then the publisher was like, no, it's got to be at least a trilogy, so she just wrote this nothing book that had no real plot to it that made any sense or had to do with anything. It was just a little ridiculous, and I gave it a 3.5 because of the smut out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was The Maidens by Alex Michaelides, and this is about a woman who is called by her niece whose best friend is dead. And so she goes back to this college that she went to, or university, which is I think Cambridge, that she went to like figure out the murders. Now, I don't know why our main character was so invested. It wasn't her niece that died. Like, this main character, and I find this with Alex Michaelides, both of his books, because the next book I read was The Silent Patient. he has his main characters become so obsessed with something and it makes no sense. It's like, why are you so invested in this? Why do you want to be the one that solves this? Like, why are you doing this? And she thinks it's related to a professor who has this gaggle of like obsessed students, one of whom was the girl who died, and then the ones who die after that are all part of this group called the Maidens. It was okay. I called the twist from like page 5, I want to say. My mom had read this, and so I was like, I think this person did it. And that was the person who did it. And I had just started it. Like, it was just a little ridiculous. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. Now, The Silent Patient was also a little ridiculous, where our main character is a psychologist or psychiatrist, and he starts to work at a psych ward to try and figure out what happened to this woman who is silent. People think that she killed her husband, and she refuses to talk. Now, one of my biggest pet peeves in books is when we're following someone and we're in the mind of someone, and somehow they keep something from us. I'm like, no, that's not how this works. Now, it's one thing if it's an unreliable narrator, and like if we were following the woman, it would have made sense. But we were following a psychologist, and like what was revealed made no sense as to why we didn't know about it. Like, it was just like so convoluted. It made absolutely no sense. Like, I was just like, what? And I hate books where we're in the mind of someone and like they somehow keep this like reveal from us that like it's like looking back at the book, you're like, no, there's no way you would have kept this from us. Like, there's no way we would know about this. So I also gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was The Helm of Midnight by Marina J. Lostetter. And this takes place in a fantasy world where people use magic that is imbued in masks. And the mask of a very famous killer is stolen. So we follow a detective trying to find out where the mask is, as well as the killer back when he was killing, and a third point of view that doesn't really, honestly, like looking back, it was so unnecessary. Like, she didn't really play much of a part at all in anything. I like didn't really put that together, but looking back, I'm like, it made no sense as to why we had her as a character, because she really wasn't that important, gonna be honest. But overall, I did really enjoy this. It was a little spooky. The atmosphere was great. The writing was good. There was a creature that was involved that I don't know why it was involved. Like, it really didn't need to be. Like, there was no reason for us to, like, for this world to have this creature, because they just added, like, extra stuff that really didn't need to be part of the story. And it just, like, it was all about our main character conquering a fear and a reveal from her sister. Like, that's all that this creature was there for, and it's just really unnecessary. But I gave it a 3.75 out of 5 stars. The next book that I finished was my audiobook that I was listening to this month, and that was Nosferatu by Joe Hill. This is about people who have magical abilities, and our main character is a girl who can bike across and find anything that is missing. If she wants to find it, she will find it. And she is trying to find a man who kidnaps children. And he also has a gift, and that is to like find Christmas land, and also he's immortal through his car. I really liked this. I really liked the writing. I loved the audiobook. Listen to the audiobook. The narrator is fantastic. It was really good, and I was really surprised about how much I liked it. I did end up giving it a 5 out of 5 stars. I really liked the plot, I liked the writing, and I loved the audiobook. I tried watching the TV show. I got like 10 minutes in because they aged up our main character, and it makes no sense. Like, that doesn't work, because our main villain is all about trying to find kids, and she's now like going to college, and I'm like, oh, and that's when she's supposed to like meet him for the first time? No, he wants kids. He would not kidnap her if she was an adult. Like, I just could not get behind it, and they took out a character's stutter, and I was just like, no, not into it. So I did not watch the show, but I did really like the book. All right, the next thing that I did was secret reading vlog number 3, which started with Truly Devious. I read the Truly Devious trilogy, which was okay. The first book was too long, and it should have been a duology, let's be honest. So I read Truly Devious Devious, The Vanishing Stair, and The Hand on the Wall. I did not read The Box in the Woods because it doesn't have to do with the main mystery, but this is about a girl who is really fascinated with true crime, and she is accepted into a boarding school where the founder's wife and child went missing like years ago. The wife ended up dead, the child was never found, and she wants to solve it. It was okay. It was a little bit like, you know, you gotta suspend your disbelief with like younger mysteries because like there's no way a teenager would solve this when like adults didn't, but that was fine. I liked Stevie. Stevie definitely grew on me. But the love interest, I hated the romance in this, honestly. I was like, why are we supposed to be invested in this? The love interest sucks, but there's also a very, very unnecessary political plot line in this that just like was added so that could be a trilogy, honestly. It could honestly be one book and maximum 2 books for it to be like good. The third book just was unnecessary and that political plot line really didn't do it for me. And the fact that we got like past timelines was not good. So I gave this like a 3.5, this a 3.75, and this a 3 out of 5 stars. All right, and now into the last week, and I am going to punch through these. The first book I read was Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. Loved the first half, did not like the second half as much. I think it could have been a little bit longer to really explore this world. It is about a man who is like, can't remember anything before being in this house. That's basically a universe. It has unlimited doors, unlimited pathways, but then he finds out that a man has been keeping him here and kind of evaluating him, and he learns that there are other humans in this like universe, and he wants to figure out what's going on. I really, really enjoyed this. The first half would have been a 5 out of 5 stars, but the second half was a little rushed, so I gave it a 4.25, 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell, and I really enjoyed this. This is about a girl who, when she's 25, finds out she inherits a huge mansion. She also finds out that she was the daughter of cultists, and we get the present day timeline with her, but also the past timeline with the family, and we follow her brother. But all of the kids have been missing since it happened, so we're kind of just trying to figure out what happened. I really enjoyed this. Lisa Jewell wrote When She Was Gone or something, and then she was gone, and it was amazing. I sobbed. This wasn't as good, but I did really enjoy it, and I gave it a 4.25 out of 5 stars. And then I finished Sunreach by Brandon Sanderson. It is a novella between Starsight and Cytonic. It was okay. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. Really isn't necessary. Then I also read The Iliad by Homer, which I enjoyed. I don't love wartime fantasy, so honestly I didn't love it as much as like the Odyssey, but I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. And then the last thing that I read was another secret reading vlog, and that was secret reading vlog number 4, where I read the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy. Now, I have read Daughter of Smoke and Bone before, years ago, and I really enjoyed it the second time around. The insta-love is a little much, but overall did really enjoy the premise, and I really love Karu and like her whole aesthetic. I gave this one a 4.25 out of 5 stars. But then we had wartime fantasy in this, and also a huge time jump that made no sense. I'm like, why was there, like, there was too much of a time jump where our characters were at the beginning of this was so confusing. I was like, how did either of them get here? And I gave it a 3.25, 3.5 out of 5 stars. And then Dreams of Gods and Monsters could have been at least 100 pages short if they took out this random plot line that didn't do anything until the very end. And that really detracted from it, honestly, because the first 400 and something pages is really solid. The miscommunication is wrapped up within the first half. It was all good, we were great, and then that last 100, 150 pages really didn't need to be there. But overall, I gave it a 3.75 out of 5 stars. All right, everyone, that is it for my 20 book October wrap up. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know what you read in October, and I will see you soon in another video.